welcome back to What the Film. This is like what now? Our fourth
Episode
fifth, recording this together.
Yep.
You know, there's also the two other extra ones that we got. But yeah, I think it's our fourth episode, first or second Friday episode.
Yes.
Wow. It's
crazy.
It's been a minute.
Big nuts moment
that we've
here.
been doing it. Yeah.
Oh,
big
yeah.
nuts moment. Yeah. quote from last episode.
Putting that on a bumper sticker.
Anyways, I'm joined, as always, by
Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hi. Hello, everybody.
So just a little disclaimer. It is a Wednesday night.
Yes.
You know, stuff goes on in households on Wednesday nights.
Doggies barking.
Yes, dogs barking. Phones ringing. Cars vrooming.
They vroom?
They do vroom.
Whoa. They zoom
Seriously.
in my neck of the woods.
Wow. Good for you. You're a lucky guy with the zoom cars.
I don't know if I'd say I'm so lucky. They zoom. They be zooming.
Maybe the zoom. Well, mine be vrooming. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, today, as you all know, we're going to be talking about Inside Out 2, as well as our 10 favorite animated movies of all time. But before we get into that, we have a bit of a news flash that I think we should talk about here.
Yeah.
Megalopolis has been acquired by Lionsgate and will be distributed nationwide on September 27th.
Oh, that's wild.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I don't know about you. I didn't get to see it at Cannes. So this is So I'm going to be seeing it with everyone else for the first time, aside from the people that did get to see it at Cannes.
Yes.
And I'm not one of those people. So
you are not.
It's going to be fun. Maybe we'll see it together.
I feel like we probably will.
Yeah. We have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just nice because I feel like Megalopolis and any other movie that like doesn't, or I guess didn't already have distribution, anytime we talk about it in like an Oscar prediction capacity, we just kind of talk about how it still doesn't have distribution and how we're worried because of that. And so like now that it's coming out and now that we know that's happening, we can breathe and we can just talk about it on its own merits.
Exactly. And I think with Megalopolis, it really particularly became worrying because it's been months without distribution. So it was one thing when it was a couple of weeks and then Cannes. But then after Cannes, when it still didn't get any deals, and now finally we're like a month out from the festival, and it finally got a deal. So, and Lionsgate, that's kind of interesting to me.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but it should be fun. Big swing from Lionsgate. Let's see how it does.
Yeah.
Wanted to go over a couple of movies that I saw coming out this weekend that you could see tonight if you wanted to, because this is our Friday episode. First off is the Bikeriders.
Vroom, vroom.
Ethan, do you plan on seeing the Bikeriders?
I will probably end up seeing the Bikeriders, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting film. I didn't necessarily love it. I thought of it as a 3-star movie.
Okay.
But it's the slice of life kind of thing. The issue is that it's like 50% slice of life, and then the other 50% is this love triangle. So it just feels a little.
Who's the third part of the love triangle?
Tom Hardy.
He is?
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't know he was part of that whole plot line.
He's very much a part of that whole plot line.
And I gotta ask, how's his accent?
It's you get used to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it everything I'd hoped for?
Yes. Though I would say that Jodie Comer's is even better.
Okay.
Yeah. I think going out of that film, I was like excited for Tom Hardy's and left so happy about Jodie Comer's. And like, oh yeah, then there was also Tom Hardy's.
Tom Hardy?
Tom Hardy. I'm from Boston now. Yeah. Anyways, there's also Thelma.
Which you've seen twice now.
Yes, because I've seen both of these films because of AMC Screen Unseen. Thelma was last week's Screen Unseen. So then I go to this week's Screen Unseen, and lo and behold, it's Thelma again. So I'm like, wait, that's not right. So I go to the manager at my AMC. I'm just like, yo, like, this isn't the right movie. Like, what's going on? And he's just like, oh, crap. And he proceeds to, I guess, download the movie, pauses Thelma, walks in, is like, hey, we're going to start playing the proper movie in 20 minutes, then unpauses Thelma and never pauses it again to play the Bikeriders. So I had to sit through Thelma the whole second time
Awesome.
and then watch the Bikeriders. And I missed the first like 2 minutes of the Bikeriders because I had to go and extend my parking, because you have to pay for parking at that theater.
This is a story.
This is a story. Something I'm very annoyed about. I sent an email to AMC and I was like, I want compensation.
Wow.
Will I get compensation? I don't know.
But you liked Thelma, right?
I did. It's not that I don't like Thelma. It's just that I was so excited for the Bikeriders because I had a feeling it was going to be the Bikeriders because it
But
was
didn't
rated R and the
you
proper
got to see two
runtime.
movies for the price of one, though.
I did, but I also had to pay to extend my parking. I wanted to spend time with my puppy.
Fair. That's
I
fair.
have a puppy.
Those puppies they're nice. They're
Yeah.
good.
Puppies are very nice.
Guys,
So,
Logan's got some good puppies.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, I do like Thelma though. Thelma's a really cute movie. I highly recommend it. I think it's better than the Bikeriders, as a matter of fact. And yeah, I mean, go check it out. Two solid, interesting movies playing at your local theater this weekend.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right, now let's talk about a movie that you have seen.
Yes.
Inside Out 2.
Inside Out 2. The sequel, you might guess, to the first Inside Out.
Whoa. I'm shocked. I'm bewildered
Yes.
by that fact. So
yes.
Tell me your thoughts.
I really enjoyed this. And going into it, I didn't know if I would, which I don't get often. Usually I go into a movie and I kind of already feel like I know what I'm going to think, and very rarely do I have some like crazy opinion that I never expected to have. I don't know if I'd say that's the case here, but like the trailers didn't impress me the way a lot of trailers tend to. I'm very bad at this point with like I don't know what the term is, but like they've gotten good at making everything look good. And so it's much harder for me to tell like what movie before reviews come out is actually going to be worth seeing. And it wasn't until reviews started coming out for Inside Out 2 that I was like, oh, I think I'm actually maybe going to potentially like this, but I didn't know. And I've been so down on Pixar with their sequels. And so I went into this expecting it to be fine and was pleasantly surprised. I think it retains a lot of just the original charm that made the first Inside Out so refreshing, which is weird because now it's like not original anymore. But there's just so much potential with a concept like this that one feature film is not going to be enough to explore this whole world. And I like what they do with it. Like they give Riley essentially the sense of self by like kind of like roots growing out from this river of memories into headquarters. I thought that was really cool. Obviously like all the new emotions coming in with puberty. It was such a throwaway joke at the end of the first one when like they put the puberty button there and whatever. Yeah. But it doesn't feel cheap here. It feels like a very natural extension of the first film. As someone who can relate to like a lot of what's being done with anxiety and like all of that, I found that really good. And it reminded me of very old school Pixar where like there is a very simple message. It's like it's not particularly nuanced. It's very easy to understand in a way that children get it, but it is not dumbed down to a kid level. It's just done in a way that kids can enjoy it. And I thought like I just really resonated with that. I don't know.
Me too. Yeah, I also really resonated with this film. I guess like I pretty much feel the same way that you do about how this film is not dumbed down. If anything, I almost feel like some kids might have a harder time connecting with this film because it does introduce certain complexities that I don't know if you'll fully be able to understand as a kid. But I think that there's still enough in this film for it to be enjoyed regardless of that. And I guess like my one issue is that its structure felt too similar to the first Inside Out.
Yeah.
It very much like just the story beats felt very similar. Just the way that it kind of unfolded, like it felt a lot like A New Hope and then Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Like
Because
yes,
like
we have
you
new
like the
characters.
emotions
Yeah.
are getting like thrown out of headquarters like a third of the way in and just kind of have to make it back, but
Hmm.
also like there's this MacGuffin thing that they need to get back to headquarters, not just them. Yeah.
Yeah. So like now it's like, with joy and sadness got thrown out in the first one. Now all of them get thrown out.
Right.
We're going to be talking about some spoilers here, by the way, for people listening. So if you have not yet seen this film, feel free to go to the
Spoiler warning.
timestamps in the description of this podcast and skip ahead and keep
That.
listening to the other stuff we're going to be talking about. Anyways, so yeah, just wanted to give that little
Yeah.
disclaimer. There's, like you said, the MacGuffin. That I guess is the newest aspect and really
Yeah.
the thing that they do to make things more interesting. You see a few characters kind of come into the film in the first, or I guess you could say start of the second act, that are these kind of repressed characters in Riley's mind,
Yeah.
similar to Bing Bon but just not as good as Bing Bon.
No one can be as good as Bing Bong.
Yeah, no one could be as good as Bing
He's
Bon.
literally your friend who likes to play.
Yeah. And then there's also the second MacGuffin, Pouchy, if you could call him a
Pouchy.
MacGuffin.
Pouchy.
But Pouchy's his own thing, and I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Pouchy's great.
Pouchy was something.
Anger shoving his hand into Pouchy to just pull out all the dynamite. The look on his face was incredible. Also,
just easily just one of the best visual gags I have seen in a very long time.
yeah, like this film is very creative, and sadly,
Yeah.
because it's all in the mind, you're limited with the kind of storytelling that you can do. So I understand why it's so similar to the first Inside Out. And I do want to revisit both of the movies like pretty soon. I want to go and see Inside Out 2 again in theaters while it's still here. One thing I did want to touch up on, which is not my personal thoughts, but just something that I haven't looked at yet, is how Inside
Yes.
Out has been doing this like week during the weekdays.
Okay.
It made 22 million on Monday and 28.8 yesterday.
That's crazy.
It's doing really well
That is wild.
over the week. Like for comparison, Barbie, which opened with about 7 million, or how much did Inside Out open with again? 154. So Barbie opened with about 8 million more than Inside Out and proceeded to make 26 million on its first Monday and Tuesday. Inside Out made less on Monday.
Oh,
but then
combined or
no, like 26 million
okay.
Monday, 26 million Tuesday. So Inside Out made less on the Monday, but then beats Barbie for the Tuesday.
Okay.
So like it's doing like kind of close to Barbie level good. And if it does proceed to hold that way where it can keep making, 28 million and numbers like that into the weekend.
Yeah.
Like we have a $1 billion movie on our hands.
Definitely. All I'm hearing
Yeah.
is like $20 million on a weekday, which like 20 million across a whole weekend is a very respectable opening weekend.
Mhm.
Like movies are back.
Yeah.
Movies are back.
At least Inside Out 2 is back. Also, Bad Boys, I think, is doing decently. You should go and see Bad Boys.
I'm gonna get there at some point.
Okay.
I promise.
As you should. I
Yeah.
keep asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for comparison, though, everyone was like, oh my God, Bad Boys made $33 million in a weekend. Inside Out 2 made almost that
Crazy.
on a Tuesday. So, yeah, like this is a huge film, regardless of whether you like it or not, regardless of how you feel about Pixar sequels. And thank God it's not like a bad sequel.
Yeah.
Like this is a good movie. And we're going to get into Pixar sequels versus their original films soon. unless we
Yeah.
have a lot more to say about Inside Out 2. But I'm glad that this actually stands out as a good Pixar film.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you have any more thoughts?
Yeah. I one thing that I've seen a couple reviews talking about, but I just wanted to highlight here. There are so many characters in this movie, and it does a very good job of balancing all of them.
Yeah.
And it's something I didn't really pick up on while watching, but afterwards and thinking about it, one, I think Riley, who felt very secondary in the original, where it's like you're just kind of paying attention to the emotions, and what's actually happening to her as a result of that is kind of secondary, and you're more focused on what's going on inside her head, hence the concept of the movie. Here, I think it's a little different, where like what is going on with like her at hockey camp and all of that actually does, I'm not gonna say play a role, because like first movie did too, but it feels much more like its own story within the movie, as opposed to it just being the emotions and that kind of just being a result of that. And between, like, you have the 5 original emotions, you have the 4 new ones, you have Riley, her friends, the new girl at the high school, her parents, they're, and like anyone that the original emotions run into while trying to get back to headquarters. You have a lot of people and things to juggle, and everyone kind of gets their moment, and it's just really balanced writing that I feel like I don't see a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I haven't seen a film balance characters this well in a really long time, because you grow not only to care about all of the emotions and find them interesting in their own ways, but also the human characters, which I think they did a harder time with in the first film. Like, they had the mom, the dad, and Riley, and then I don't remember any other human character in that film. And then you had the 5 emotions. Here you have 9 emotions. You have Riley, the mom, the dad.
Hey, don't forget nostalgia.
Oh,
My homegirl
nostalgia. I'm sorry.
nostalgia.
Okay. 10 emotions. By the way, nostalgia is voiced by the same actress as Thelma and Thelma. Little fun fact.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Just
No,
little tidbit.
when she just shows up and then they
Mhm.
cram her back, like that is one of the funniest moments of that entire
It
movie.
is. Well, it happens twice, and both
It happens
just
to,
were
but like
great.
yeah, just
And then in my head, I'm just like, well, I have nostalgia very young then. That's weird.
yeah.
Like, I saw that and I was like, because they were like, we don't need nostalgia until like after you get married or something like that. And I'm just like, what if
Yeah.
I want to be
Not enough
nostalgic
friends'
at
weddings yet.
19? Yeah. So it was so fun.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought of with the characters. So then there's also all the teenagers, the 2 friends who she's friends with from school, and then the hockey captain and the coach, and just all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really commend this film for being able to juggle all of that in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Pretty
It's
wild.
quick. It
Yeah.
flies.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I love a film like that.
Me too.
Yeah. So, with that being said, would you like to shift over to talking a little bit more about Pixar sequels as a whole?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, as we know, like Pixar sequels have been a big moneymaker for them, but they don't tend to be that good.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily bad, but just not up to Pixar standards,
Yeah.
So, let's take the first one I have on here is Cars versus Cars 2 and 3. So
I saw that you recently rewatched Cars 2. Why?
Yes. I wanted to watch some like Disney movie, Pixar originals and then sequels. So I did Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, and then I saw Cars and Cars 2.
Uh-huh.
Just to have a little more context for this discussion.
Fair.
And yeah, Cars 2 is awful. It's horrible. I mean, not to mention that it was really the first bad Pixar movie ever.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I put in my Letterboxd review, I was like, imagine it's 2011, you're Pixar. You're coming off of movies like Up, Ratatouille, Wall-E, the first Cars movie, and just more. Every movie they had made up until that point was not only a hit, like money-wise, it seemed like, but also critically.
Yeah.
aside from maybe like A Bug's Life and then kind of Cars 1 2 wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily the biggest critical hit. And then you make Cars 2.
I look at Pixar's trajectory very much as like a pre-Cars 2 and a post-Cars 2, because like at this point you have pretty much a decade and a half on either side of that,
Mm-hmm.
and they are very distinct decade and a halves.
Yes, I completely agree. One where it was quality, 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 and then the other where it's like quantity with less quality.
Sometimes quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not consistent or as consistent.
Yes.
Yeah. And even like the original films that they made after Cars 2 weren't always great. Brave,
Right.
A Good Dinosaur,
Brave.
Elemental.
Elemental. Don't get me started.
So, don't get you started. So, yeah, I mean, it just very distinct eras. I love Cars 1. It's my favorite Pixar movie.
Really?
Yes.
Are we going to talk about it in your top 10?
Oh my God, we're going to be talking about it in my
man.
top 10. So I don't want to really dive into it. But
Okay.
Cars 2 it just poops all over it.
Cars 2 bad.
Yes.
Yes.
Awful.
Now, what are your thoughts on Cars 3?
I haven't seen Cars 3. No, like not like recently.
Okay.
I kind of saw it when I was a lot younger, so I don't have good thoughts because
Okay.
I haven't seen it while I've been older. But when I saw it when I was younger, I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd. So
Okay. I am
that's
maybe
young
not.
Logan thoughts.
I don't think I'm the best person to defer to for Cars 3 because I have this weird thing, right? I'm a Cars 3
Mhm.
defender.
Okay.
I really like Cars 3 for no reason.
Oh.
I can't explain it. I won't explain it. I just really enjoy it. It just resonates with me in a way it doesn't seem to with anyone else. Hence, I think I am the problem. But I'm not gonna say it's a failure like many others will, because I personally don't think so. But just in terms of this originals versus sequels, the original Cars wins out for me. Despite my weird, unexplainable like of Cars 3. That's all I got with that. Yeah.
There you go. Well, you know what? You are Cars 3 what I am with Lightyear, which we can dive
Oh
into
no. Okay.
with Toy Story versus 2, 3, 4, and Lightyear.
Toy Story 1. Amazing.
Yeah.
Toy Story 2. Amazing. Toy Story 3. Amazing. Toy Story 4.
God, Toy Story 3.
Really, really good. Lightyear. But all that being said, if we are asking ourselves the question of if any of these sequels live up to their originals, Toy Story is the one where I'm going to say yes, because Toy Story 3 is my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah.
I would say definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And even the second one, I have it at 5 stars. And even 4, which is unnecessary and not as good, I still really like.
I don't like 4 as much.
It's okay.
3 is one of my favorite Pixar movies for sure.
Yeah, me too.
2, like the first one is the first one. 2, I remember it for the really satisfying like cowboy doll scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like the guy
those scenes when he's just cleaning Woody.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So just
goes so hard for no reason.
Such a good scene. Yeah. And I love it so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Toy Story is the biggest exception for sure.
Definitely.
And even though I would say I'm a Lightyear defender and not a big fan of Toy Story 4, I would say that we would be better off just like film and artistically wise without Toy Story 4 or Lightyear.
Yeah. I'm not going to say that Toy Story 4 doesn't justify its own existence, because like I do think really in the last 10 minutes it comes into its own, and it proves that like even if there wasn't definitely more story to be told, that like there was something there, like with Inside Out 2. It's not just a cash grab, like there is actual stuff going on there. But yeah, I think it's very telling that the only sequels in the pre-Cars 2 Pixar era are Toy Stories 2 and 3.
Yeah. And I think that works. I think that was a trilogy and a really well executed trilogy.
Yeah.
And I just think that they should have left it at that. I think if you leave it at Toy Story 3, you have the greatest animated trilogy ever made.
Until potentially Beyond the Spider-Verse. We'll get there.
Yes, until then. But and we'll get into that with our favorite
We'll get it.
animated
We'll get
movies.
there.
But anyways, I like Lightyear, but also we don't need it. And but I do also get why movies like it in Toy Story 4 are being made to make money for Pixar and keep them afloat essentially
Yeah.
with Disney, that way Disney doesn't shut down Pixar. So
Right.
it's fine. I just if for every one of those kind of movies we get, I hope that we get like a soul,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, you want to get into Finding Nemo versus Finding Dory?
Finding Nemo all the way, baby.
Yeah.
But
It's
that being said, I do like Finding Dory.
so we are different here.
I like it. I don't love it. I like it.
I don't really like
You don't like
Finding
it at
Dory.
all. Okay.
It's weird because when I first saw Finding Dory when I was a little kid, I was like, this is my favorite Pixar movie. I loved
Okay.
it. Then I saw it a couple of nights ago. And I was like, this is one of the most mediocre things I've seen like ever. It was just so middling. So just the stakes felt so low. It just Finding Nemo was like here. It was like dude trying to find his son.
Yeah.
But then with Dory, it felt like everything got handed to her. So the stakes just felt so low. There was never really any tension. And all the characters were just so one note in no like complexities really at all, whether it be in her parents, where it's just like, oh my God, we found you. We're worried about you. Don't run away. And that's all they are. And then with like the whale just kind of being goofy and the other whale also just being kind of goofy, like there's no sense of complexity. Well, in Finding Nemo, you had Marlin and Nemo, who are these true people who have gone through trauma in different aspects and their responses to said trauma. While you have Dory, who at first comes off like one of those one-noted characters, but then her complexities are kind of unveiled throughout the film. You also have the octopus in Finding Dory. He's probably the best new
Hank,
character.
right?
Hank, yeah. And even though one of my best friends is a guy named Hank, I'm still not the biggest Hank and Finding Dory fan.
Yeah.
I thought he was fine. And for a fine character to be the best new character in that movie, in my opinion, is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never really realized just the decrease in stakes until you just pointed it out, because like Finding Nemo is father traveling across the entire ocean, and Finding Dory is aquarium, yay.
Yeah. And also, like, even though they did technically have to travel across the entire ocean, they did that in 1 second. And they did that with like the turtles from the first movie.
Yeah.
Where it was just like we've seen them navigate the ocean. They can do navigating the ocean. And it just once you get to an aquarium, it just feels so much less.
There's only so much that can happen at the aquarium.
Yeah. I feel like
I will also admit the end where they hijack a truck and cause like a multi-car collision, if they were going for realism, I feel like there were better options.
Yeah. I just feel like it got a little too wonky.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, why?
I don't know. I still have fun with it though. I can look past it. I don't know. Finding Nemo I love, but it's not like top 5 for me. I don't think. So it is definitely more of like a cash grabby sequel than some of these others, but I don't think it's bad enough or even mediocre enough to like warrant me having personal rage against it like I would with like some of the like a Cars 2.
Yeah. That's fair. I feel like it's kind of a trend with a lot of these Pixar sequels where the second that there's a sequel, they kind of become a little more wonky, a little more goofy, a little
Yeah.
less serious. And really the only two exceptions seem to be the Cars film, or the Toy Story films, not the Cars films, and Inside Out 1 and 2, or Inside Out
Yeah.
2, I guess I can say. You know, so that that's also I think a problem. I think that for these sequels to for them to make more successful sequels, they need to stick with just kind of the groundedness of the original.
I love how we're calling Pouchy grounded.
Yeah.
Cause like I guess in the world of Inside Out, like, yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm. Like when you have Bing Bong,
Yeah.
I think you can have Pouchy, and
Yeah.
I think both work in
I
their own
think
ways.
after Bing Bong dying is like one of the most emotionally potent scenes of the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
You can like justify a Pouchy in your sequel.
Yeah. What if Pouchy dies in the third one?
No, they wouldn't. They can't.
Make one of the most emotionally resonant
I'm
scenes of
willing
the
to say he's
2020s.
invincible after like what anger does to him.
It's just like it gives him more power.
Yeah. All right, Incredibles.
Okay. Incredibles. I mean, I haven't seen these films really all too recently. Have you?
I mean the first Incredibles is like potentially the defining film of my childhood. I
Oh,
know it
wow.
like the back of my hand. And Incredibles 2, maybe it is just the nostalgia of the first one. I do like Incredibles 2. And in time I've come to realize it's got some problems. Like Screenslaver could be better. But like I think the animation is incredible.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
say like the
Yeah.
scene when Elastigirl is like swinging along the rooftops is
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, like I just love the Incredibles aesthetic, like the weird kind of 60s spy, but also superhero, but also family drama type thing. I just live for it, and so like Incredibles 2 not being up to the first one, not being up to par, haha pun, um, like I can forgive it
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoy watching it and I've rewatched it several times. But again, if we are comparing, there's a drop off.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely I remember when I did see it when I was younger, I was like, "Oh, this is good." But then slowly I began sort of realizing it even though I was like still kind of a kid, and I haven't gone back to it since.
Okay.
Um so that's kind of my problem.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that of all of these films that have already gotten sequels, aside from like Inside Out, Incredibles is the one where I'm like, I would be very happy with a third one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if they announced a third Incredibles, I would be like, oh, that's awesome. If they announced like a third Finding Nemo or a third or fourth Cars, or we already said fifth Toy Story, like that's happening, but fifth Toy Story, etc., etc., I wouldn't be nearly as happy.
Yeah.
I'd be a little bit more like, how about something else? But I'll take Incredibles 3.
Yeah. Like you'll
Yeah.
see this when we get to our top 10 lists. I trust in Brad Bird. And like
Yeah.
Tomorrowland was not good, but like beyond that, I'm okay with whatever he's doing as long as he's behind it. I trust him to make, if not an amazing, at the very least, a good, decent movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
a good person to trust, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, Monsters Inc. versus Monsters U. It's really the last one we got.
Yeah.
It just kind of does the same thing, just
Yeah.
kind of more wonky. It's the only prequel,
It is.
and it's fine.
It also retcons the first one.
Wait, what
Like
was
where
the
they're
retcon?
they're taught because when Mike and Sully at the beginning of Monsters Inc. are like just making small talk, like they mention that they knew each other like in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
which like not if they met at Monsters University.
Nope.
And like again, I think it's just like the Pixar fanboy in me. I do like Monsters University, and like it's a little wonky, it's unnecessary, and it's not amazing. I find it fun.
Yeah,
That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean that's kind of the thing. Like all these movies are fun. I'd
Yeah.
say even Cars 2 was fun.
No.
I gave it
I
one star.
rewatched Cars 2 as like I think it might have been the last movie I watched with my friends before going home for the summer. And
Mhm.
the whole time I was just like, why is this the movie we picked?
Yeah, but like, doesn't it have its fun moments? Because it's so
What,
bad.
Mater peeing? No.
Well, then it's revealed it's not Mater. It's the other one.
I don't care who peed. I don't want to be watching that.
Yeah, you don't want to watch Mater on a Japanese toilet.
Mater figuring out how bidets work is legitimately funny. I will give it that.
It's cinema.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Mater like trying to tell spies that he's not a spy and being very obvious about it, and then they still don't listen to him. And it's like, how are you guys competent spies if you're not realizing that this guy is totally incompetent?
Michael Caine voicing a spy car is
Oh
just
yeah,
like, yeah. Finn McMissile?
Finn McMissile.
Sure. Pixar,
Yeah.
you do you.
I think it worked. I think Michael Caine was
It
solid.
works in some ways. I will not say it works in the ways that it should as a movie, but
Mhm.
it works in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we've talked enough about movies like Cars 2. How about we
Yes.
talk about our favorite animated movies
Let's do
ever?
it. I'm so curious to hear your list.
I got a list. I think it's on my computer. How about
Oh
you go
man.
first?
So for my number 10, it's the only movie on my list that I have not rewatched, and I want to because I haven't watched this since 2020, and I
Mhm.
don't know if it will still be here if I rewatch it, but I loved it when I saw it, and that is Your Name, which
Your
is
Name. I've
yes,
never
which is
seen
an
this.
anime movie from 2016, directed by Makoto Shinkai, who did Weathering with You and Suzume from last year, which was really good.
Mhm.
It's it's a very hard movie to describe. It's essentially a body swap movie, but there is a twist halfway through that completely recontextualizes it, which I'm not going to spoil, but it is so good.
Mhm.
The animation, like what is done with the skies, there's so much blue and purple that is just so dazzling. And the writing, it snuck up on me. Like the first 30 minutes, I was like, yeah, this is fun. I enjoy this. And then once you get to the halfway point and once you really figure out what the movie is, it hits you so hard. And I was very
Mhm.
emotional by the ending. I got very invested in it. Like, it was a weird journey watching it. And I really want to rewatch it, but it's here at number 10.
You're convincing me to go and check this out now because I
Awesome.
haven't
Please
seen
do.
it.
It's so
When
good.
For me, when I heard you say that you haven't seen this since 2020, I thought you were talking about my number 10 for a second, which is Soul.
It's so
Yeah, I also have not seen this movie since 2020, but I was really wowed by it. It just it blew me away. It made me during the pandemic. I'd had this huge passion for film in 8th grade, and then during the pandemic, ninth grade, I was really kind of under the weather and just like mentally, in the sense of like my feelings towards everything, as most people
yeah.
were, but particularly to my love for movies. I wasn't watching a lot of movies, but I knew Soul was coming, so I watched Soul and I loved it. And
Yeah.
after that, I began watching more movies, you know.
Good
And
stuff.
yeah, Soul just, it's so good. Just
Yeah.
the two main characters, they're great. And just like really, I was worried that it would feel a little too much like Inside Out or like Coco, just because of how it looked, but it didn't. It was its own thing and really like existential. And I think it was a perfect movie to release like while we were going through the pandemic.
So you also picked an existential body swap movie that you haven't watched since 2020.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Love to see it. Yes.
And not my only Pixar movie.
We are going to be talking about Pixar a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
We will. There's a
Okay.
lot of Pixar.
My
All right.
number 9. is I'm gonna seem like such a nerd having two anime movies back to back. My number 9 is The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which is a 2013 Studio Ghibli movie. It is, I believe, the last film from Isao Takahata, who is kind of like the number 2 Ghibli director behind Miyazaki.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, just the animation itself is so stunning and it is so unlike anything else that I've seen. The whole thing is just kind of like in this watercolor style, which is so minimalist, and I thought I was gonna hate it because there's really not a lot of detail, but it's just really cool and it makes for some very stunning scenes. And
Yeah.
it's about essentially this little girl who's like kind of born in a bamboo stalk and becomes a princess. It's again, I have a tough time explaining it, but it's just really cool
Mm-hmm.
and again very emotional by the end. And it's classic Ghibli, but in a way maybe it is just the animation style. It feels very un-Ghibli. And yeah, go watch it if you haven't.
I'll definitely go check it out. I've heard really good things,
Good
and
stuff.
I know I need to go and see it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, my number 9 is the Lego Movie.
Oh snap.
I watched this movie back in February 2023 with Simona, my girlfriend. We were together for 2 weeks at this point.
Okay.
You know, I could quote this whole movie. I've at that point had only maybe seen the movie like 4 times, and I could quote the whole thing.
Nice.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's so quotable, but also so emotional. I cried multiple times. It's just it's a movie that is just so in touch with being a kid and
Yeah.
imagination and the extents imagination can go into adulthood and not wanting to suppress that imagination. And even though it's a little goofy, it's a little silly, I just think it's so in touch with humanity and creativity, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are
Vibes.
my thoughts on the Lego Movie. It's so I
Probably
take
the
it.
best possible version of like what it could have been too.
Yeah, for sure. This movie could have been awful, and
Yeah.
it's one of my 10 favorite animated movies.
Definitely.
All right, let's hear it.
So I'm conflicted on my number 8 because there is another movie I want to talk about that I'm not going to get a chance to, I don't think. And my number 8 I could kind of lump in with another movie that we're going to be talking about later. Do I do it or do I not do it?
I think you don't do it. I think you be
Okay.
genuine.
Okay, then cut that whole part out.
Okay.
All right. My number 8 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm willing to go on record and say is one of the most influential movies of the last decade plus. Like
Yeah.
the Spider-Verse effect in animation, even just in Inside Out 2, like when there's like the suppressed like characters from like Riley's like just doing those different animation styles, you can clearly see it. Obviously, in something like a Puss in Boots 2 or like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, does a lot of cool stuff there.
Mitchell's vs. Machines.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
The way that it balances its characters and it just has it what I found to be, because I've never like I liked the Raimi trilogy, but I never held it as like this holy pinnacle of Spider-Man media.
Mhm.
And Into the Spider-Verse was the first time that I was like, oh, this is how people feel about Spider-Man.
Yeah, I had that same experience. This is my number 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is our first overlap, and
I
probably
figured
not
it
going
would
to
be
be
on
our
your
last.
list.
Yeah, it's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this in the theaters, and I think this was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater twice.
Okay.
You know, because like at one point, like you're too young to do that on your own. But I
Yeah.
remember just begging my dad for like multiple weeks to go and see this. So we ended up like seeing it later in a movie theater where it was kind of in like one of their secondary theaters because it had been that long, and it was still just as magical as the first time.
Yeah,
there's just something about the journey of Miles in this movie, and just kind of, I don't know how to fully describe it, but just the tragedy of having to bear such a responsibility and the kind of rawness of that. And I just think that this film captures it so well. And yeah, so
completely.
that's why I have it
It
where it
is
is.
such, it's like a perfect comic book movie, like just
Mm-hmm.
the way it's animated. Like the "What's Up Danger" scene is one of my favorite scenes of the
Oh
last
my
decade.
god.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
chills.
And the scene where Uncle Aaron gets killed.
Oh god.
Yeah, just like that. That's kind of when I think Into the Spider Verse. That's the scene I
Yeah,
really think of, just because it's this movie defines with great power comes great responsibility better than I think any Spider-Man movie did before it. And
yeah,
yes, I know that the Raimi trilogy exists. I think that this film, as well as another Spider-Man movie that we'll be talking about, um, are both better than all the Raimi
yeah.
Spider-Man movies. I think that it's magical what they kind
I
of managed to
think I
do.
think that as people born in the mid 2000s and with the Tom Holland Spider-Man really at the end of the day just being part of a larger franchise,
Hmm.
I feel like this is our Spider-Man
Yeah,
in many
I
ways.
think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, my number 8
Do it.
is my second Pixar movie on the
Okay.
list, Finding Nemo.
All right.
Yeah, we already talked about it a bit, so I don't want to get into it too much, but it's Finding Nemo.
It's Finding
you
Nemo.
know, it just the ocean is wonderful in this film. It's just the adventures that they go on and just kind of the unraveling, and every time you think that they're getting closer, they take one step back and the stakes keep getting higher and higher and higher, and you care about all three of the main characters plus the guy voiced by Willem Dafoe. I thought was awesome, and just everyone in this movie is great, and
Yeah.
I could watch it a million times and never get bored of it. you know it does so much, and there's all of these little like bits like planted at the start of this film where it's like, have you ever met a shark, or like, have you ever met turtles, whatever, and then all of a sudden, shark, turtles,
Turtles.
something about jellyfish, I think,
Yeah.
jellyfish, you know and it's great just the way that that goes. And really, what I think separates this film from a lot of Pixar movies to me is the opening scene
Yeah.
with Marlin and Nemo's mom. I don't know her name off the top of my head,
Is it
but
Coral?
yes, it is Coral.
Okay.
So with Marlin and Coral, and they like just seeing their pure love for one another, and then the tragedy that follows is just heartbreaking.
It's so dark so fast and it really
Hmm.
sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and even though the rest of the film never necessarily gets that
Yeah,
dark, you need that scene,
you
because
do.
that scene instantly makes you care just as much as Marlin does for Nemo. You
Yeah.
know,
It makes
and
what
also,
could have been just like an annoying father figure character into like a very rootable protagonist.
yeah, exactly. Anyways, let's move on before I start getting emotional about Finding
Of
Nemo.
course.
What's your number 7?
My number 7. I also have a Pixar movie. It's Ratatouille.
Oh, okay, that's a good one. That's a really
Yes.
good one. All right,
Yes.
talk to us about Ratatouille.
I recently rewatched this and it just reaffirmed like it would have been number 7 anyway, but it just reaffirmed it's so good. Um Paris being the setting is just it's beautiful. I love like Brad Bird the way that he works the fake camera. Like he takes full advantage of the animated medium. The scene when Remy is like scurrying around before the reveal that he's in Paris, when it's just like going through like seeing the couple fighting and then kissing, like just all of that where you're following him. It's so cool. The food, I want to eat the food. I'm a picky eater and I wouldn't eat it in real life, but I want to eat the food.
Hmm.
Um and it's such a silly concept of like everything everywhere poked fun at it because like he's being controlled by a rat. The rat is making him go. It's so stupid. But
It is.
it works somehow.
Yeah.
Like Chef Skinner is hilarious. The way that they visualize like the flavors when Remy combines them,
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool. I just love this, and the message of like, because and like again the Anton ego scene, mind blowing, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But like the whole thing of not anyone can cook, but a good cook can come from anywhere, I think is a very nuanced way of delivering that message. And it's been a favorite for a while. I love it. It's
I'm
vibes.
I'm so glad that you love it, that you think it's vibes. I need to see this movie. I think if I had seen this movie within the last like 2 years, it would be on this list.
Okay.
But I just haven't. I love cooking. I think I'd be able to relate to this movie so hard. So I just want to preface why it's not here for
I
me.
think it's probably the
I'm
Pixar movie that like gets better when you're older. Because like
Yeah.
this wasn't one of my favorites as a kid, but like since I've gotten into film, I really appreciate it a lot more.
hmm I think that, and then maybe on a different level, a movie like Inside Out 2 might become good
Yeah,
for people, where like kids who see that today won't appreciate it as much as they will when they're like 16, you
for
know?
sure.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna dive in to my number 7, which is
Do it.
also a Pixar movie.
Oh my gosh.
And we have a lot of Pixar right now. And
Yeah.
yeah, so Cars.
Okay.
This is my favorite Pixar movie.
All right. So
I
we're done with Pixar for you.
Yeah, we are.
For you.
Not for
Keyword for
you.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up with this movie. I've probably seen this movie more than any other movie by miles. I'm probably never going to see a movie more than I'd seen Cars, just because I would see it 3 times a day when I was a little kid. Um, and play with my Matchbox
Of
cars in front
course.
of the TV while watching
Classic.
Cars. It would be a Cars on Cars just phenomenon going on in my household. And I was so happy to revisit this film like a week ago and still just be able to recount every single moment and really just feel this rush of nostalgia, but also just it's this big hotshot rookie coming to appreciate this smaller town and just the smaller things in life, in that it's good to let life slow down. And it's a film where I try to take a lot from it, because I think I sometimes like to live life a little too fast and not let it slow down. So it's a movie that I just personally relate to, I think, more than any other Pixar movie, which I don't know how many people say that about Cars, but I'm saying it about Cars.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's why I have it here.
I can appreciate that.
I'm glad.
Enjoy the little things.
Yes.
Good stuff.
What's your number 6?
It's a Pixar movie.
I promise I'm gonna break the Pixar cycle when I do my number 6.
Okay, please do. Okay.
Okay.
My number 6 is Wally,
Ooh, okay.
which I think that the first like 40 minutes of this, when it's just like on Earth with barely any dialogue, is easily some of my favorite filmmaking I think I've ever seen. It is just magnetic. Like the way that you find yourself caring about these robots who really don't talk that much.
Yeah.
And aside from just like curiosity over humans, Wally really doesn't have that many character traits.
Mhm.
But like it's so compelling. And like then when they go up into space and they're on the ship, that too is really awesome. I think a lot of people like to discount this movie because after the first 40 minutes, it does take that turn. It feels like an animated 2001. I love it.
Mhm.
And it's so heartwarming seeing these robots just like fall in love with each other and like try to get back to each other despite all the stuff going on and like why that can't really happen. And it's just, I don't know, it's cool. It's vibes.
Yeah,
Wally is
it
so
is.
vibes.
I totally agree. I mean, those first 40 minutes are so engaging. And the reason why I don't have Wally as high up is because I think that it gets like worse after
And
that.
that's okay.
And, you know, yeah, that is okay, I think.
Yeah.
Just kind of funny. Andrew Stanton, director of Wall-E and then Finding Nemo, two films that we've given a lot of love in this video. Also, the director now of Finding Dory, director of
That.
John Carter. Did you ever
John
see John
Carter.
Carter?
I
And
have not, but I have heard.
gonna be directing Toy Story 5.
He is. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we'll see.
Okay. We'll see.
Will it be a Finding Nemo or a Wall-E, or a Finding Dory or a John Carter?
Please don't be a John Carter.
Live action Toy Story.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Well, let me break the Pixar cycle
Do
with
it.
a Disney movie,
Oh my gosh.
The Lion King.
The Lion King.
It's just so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
when I saw this, I put a little letterbox review for it, and I was just like, this is a movie that knows how cool it is and totally embraces it. Just the random musical numbers during its coolest moments, and just Akuna Matata, and just the vibes of Matthew Broderick's Simba, and just how he's
I
this
didn't
cool
I didn't
guy.
know it was Matthew Broderick till like a year ago. That blew my mind.
Yeah. And it's like, I didn't know that until after I saw the movie, and my mind was also blown because it was just like,
it's so
my
random.
God. It is so random. And this film got tarnished in 2019 by the live action version.
Don't remind me.
You know, but that's okay because this animated movie still exists and it's incredible. And just the moments where Mufasa speaks to Simba from the heavens, and really any moment involving Mufasa, just so great. I mean, this movie actually made me kind of excited for the Mufasa movie. I'm not gonna lie, just because I was like, Mufasa is so cool, and I wish it was gonna be a 2D animated movie, but I'll happily watch another movie with Mufasa.
He's Mufasa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he's still so cool in the Mufasa movie. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now.
Hamlet for kids.
Yes. And Hamlet for kids works.
It does.
Just the imagery and everything. And just, it's great. All right. Your number 5. Is
my
it
number 5
Pixar movie?
It's not. We're back to my anime nerd stuff.
Oh, okay.
Princess Mononoke.
Oh, this is also on my list. Okay.
All right. Okay.
You go first.
Yeah. I love Princess Mononoke. It is so epic. Yeah. Like, it's just epic. I love how much world building they are able to squeeze into what is less than 2.5 hours. And it doesn't even feel like a lot. All the creature designs are super cool. The story is really fascinating because, like, you'd think on the surface it is just like war is bad, protect the environment, but it is done in such a nuanced way. And like Lady Eboshi is not this one note villain. The conflict is multifaceted, and each character plays a really fascinating role in it. And again, it's just vibes. And the worst experience of my life was when they re-released this for Ghibli Fest and I went to see it and they screwed up the subtitles. The subtitles were like off the screen, like you couldn't see them, and they didn't fix them. And so I had to leave because I just wanted to see this in a theater and I didn't get that. And like I just 2 days ago saw Return of the King in theaters and it was amazing. And this is like anime Return of the King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, it's Miyazaki's most epic film for sure.
It's Studio Ghibli's Lord of the Rings. It's so slay.
It is. So this is my number 3.
Let's go.
I love this film. This is just one of my favorite movies, period. Yeah. I was just so in awe of this movie, really from the jump. You know, it just, like you kind of covered exactly how I feel about this film. It's just so multifaceted and nuanced in terms of its conflict, and it gets a little like kind of carried away, one might say, but I don't think the film ever loses you when it does get carried away. I think it carries you along with it, and everything just feels so believable in the world and just epic, but also quaint, if that makes sense. I don't know how to
Yeah.
like fully elaborate on that.
It
It's
has
just
quiet moments. It like allows
exactly,
itself to breathe.
yeah. And I really like, I love Lady Eboshi as a character because of just how she's just so kind of understandable.
Yeah.
You know, even though she sucks with what she's doing to nature, you get it. And it's the type of film where I feel like if you gave this to any other filmmaker, they would have just made her a one note villain and
Totally.
this would have been
Yeah.
a black and white movie, but it's Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of his best, for sure.
Vibes.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I keep stealing your picks.
You do. So I think because of that, you should give
You
your
haven't.
number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you want to steal one of mine.
No, just because I
Just
only
down
have
the
3
line.
left.
Okay, I mean that's fair.
Yeah.
This, by the way, before I get into it, is probably my cutoff point. Where like I love all of these. Everything in my 10, I have at 5 stars, which is saying something because I've only given 5 stars to 8% of movies that I've watched. But I think this is the cutoff point where I'm really like, these are some of my favorite movies ever made. With that, my number 4 is The Incredibles, which
Nice.
is the movie of my childhood, is like Cars is for you, probably the movie I've watched the most by far and will be the case forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um Everything a superhero movie should be, and it's also a family drama, and it's a spy thriller, and it's a critique of fan culture before the internet even really got going.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything. I love Mr. Incredible as a character, essentially going through this midlife crisis. There's an affair subplot, a suspected affair in a Pixar movie. There's a suicide attempt in the first 6 minutes. It gets dark. The villain's plan is
Yeah.
just genocide. It gets dark, but it's always done with like this loving edge, and it's amazing, and I love it. And it critiques like the superhero genre. It's a genre parody in a way, kind of similar to like Scream, I would almost say, for horror. But it's also like it's a great superhero movie. It's so cool. I just love it.
Yeah.
It's super. It's incredible even.
It is incredible. I totally agree.
I
And
wrote a fan fiction about it.
whoa, that's a reveal.
That's a
How
reveal.
old were you when you did this?
This was recent. This was 2021.
Oh wow.
I was bored. I had nothing else to do.
COVID times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I love this film, so I totally am on board with why you got it here. And it is everything that a Fantastic Four movie would want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, my number 4 is Akira.
Nice.
Yeah. I've only seen this movie once, admittedly, but the once was very recent. It was like
Okay.
a few months ago in a film history class, and I went into it kind of excited because I remember being friends with this guy in high school, and he was like, Akira is my favorite movie, and I never got around to seeing Akira. So getting to see it for the first time on the big park auditorium screen was insane. Just seeing the just just like the gravitas of this film, and just how otherworldly it is and it gets. And there, I have few words to really describe how this movie made me feel, because I was just so awestruck and didn't know what to do with myself afterwards, because it's one of those feelings that I've had only a couple times this year after seeing a movie. And one of those was Akira, and another was a movie like Challengers, where it was just
Yeah.
like, what do I do with myself after seeing a movie that's just that incredible? And
Yeah.
yeah, like there's few words you can use to really make up for how the film makes you feel. And you just kind of need to see it for yourself and experience it. And I wish I had more to say, but
Yes.
it's just, I need to see it again. I do need to see it again. Not even
I need to
maybe.
see it again. You're making me want to see it again.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and the animation is just out of this world. Yeah,
Yes. It is
great.
totally owed a rewatch by me.
Yes. All
Because
right.
it was nowhere near cracking my list, and I feel like it's Akira. It should be.
Yeah, I think so.
Like if I hadn't seen it, that's a different story. But I've watched this movie, and it wasn't close to my. I should watch it again. I
Yeah,
think.
I think you should. Like,
All
I
right.
should probably watch The Incredibles or Ratatouille again,
Probably.
or both.
All right. Am I doing my number 3?
You'll do your number 3.
Yeah. My number 3 is Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh God, I thought that this was going to be something else, and you'd steal
Oh dear.
another one.
Okay.
Thank you for not stealing another.
Do we have?
movie.
I feel like we might have the same top 2.
That would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox is my favorite Wes Anderson movie. I love it to death. Fall vibes all the way. And it's very similar to The Incredibles. It's like it's about a father who kind of feels like his life is in this stagnant spot and he wants to go relive the glory days. And with that, all hell kind of breaks loose. But the thing that I love about it is also it's a furry movie. He's an animal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And with that, it comes like this whole really cool arc of him kind of not wanting to accept that he's a wild animal, but he is. And by the end of the movie, in that amazing wolf scene, he does. Obviously, something that this has over the other movies I've talked about is that it's a Wes Anderson movie. And with that, the script is insane. And every time I watch it, I pick up on new lines because they just go by that fast. It gets like it does get better every time I watch it as I get older. Yeah, it's just and it's a heist movie.
Yeah,
come on, come on, it's awesome.
Yeah,
whack bat. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
crazy.
No, it's this movie. I was very much debating putting it in over Soul at my number 10. I think it's great.
You should have, but I'm glad you didn't because Soul is also amazing.
Yeah, and I think Soul should be recognized, but I also knew that you would have Fantastic Mr. Fox here. Yeah. So I'm glad you got that moment.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All right, my number 2.
Do we have the same top 2? I feel like we do.
We might.
I feel like knowing you, we do.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse,
which is also my number 2.
Wow. So,
all right.
We are very close.
Go for it.
If we have the same number 1, that would be kind of wild. Okay. Where do I even start?
Yeah.
You know, this movie juggled so much. It juggled being a sequel to one of the best animated movies ever made, and having to live up to that, having to carry the Miles Morales story arc, having to just keep this going, having to bring back all the other Spider-Man characters in a way that just didn't feel like kind of just to be a crowd pleaser, and just make it make sense, having to introduce more Spider-Man characters and make them just as good as the first Spider-Man characters that we get introduced to, having to make just the threat feel big enough, because Kingpin was horrifying in the first Spider-Verse movie.
He's a square with appendages. He's terrifying.
So, you needed to make a villain to live up to that, and they made multiple.
Yes,
the Spot is terrifying, and that's also like awesome because he starts off small and like villain of the week, and then he becomes this demon
of
the multiverse, and it's just like I'm so excited and terrified to see where that storyline goes. But also, you have Spider-Man 2049,
2099.
2099. I'm sorry, I got mixed up with Blade Runner. Um, so yeah, you have him and Miguel O'Hara, and yeah, like Oscar
Legend.
Isaac,
Legend.
absolutely amazing. And just the dynamic between him and Miles when Miles like has the burrito and like throws it at him and he's like, oh, like you should eat this burrito, and then he's like just responds quickly in Spanish and throws the burrito away. Just
Yeah.
like those little moments. Daniel Kaluuya
Oh my
voicing
god.
what's his name? What's his name?
Hobie?
Hobie. Yes. Wow. You know, like just what a guy Hobie
Yeah.
is. You know, I remember the first time I saw it, I kind of hated Hobie because he was sort of having a thing with Gwen. And I was
Yeah.
like, how dare you have a
It's
thing
because
with
you're rooting for
Gwen?
Miles.
Yeah, exactly. But then second watch, I was like, Hobie, I love you. You're awesome. And also like he lets Miles go back
Yeah.
to Gwen. You know, he could have been all protective, but he wasn't. So I can't blame him really. And I kind of like that they introduce a relationship that's kind of complex like that in a movie that's kind of supposed to be a kids movie, but it's obviously not really a kids movie because they didn't have to introduce like a complex situationship type of relationship that is also healthy enough to be let go of when you have an actual relationship come to fruition.
Yeah.
And even though that's such a small aspect of this film, I respect it immensely for including that on top of the many, 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 many other things that it has to juggle. Also, Gwen.
Gwen. Oh my god.
I think this is what separates the people who liked this movie versus the people who love this movie. It's
Yeah.
how you feel about Gwen and that whole character arc. If you love it, this is going to be you're going to like this better than Into the Spider-Verse. This is going to be one of your favorite animated movies ever. I happen to fall into that. I'm assuming you also fall into that if you have it this high. The people that don't like this, I understand.
Yeah.
It's a change, you know, from the whole Miles storyline. And like I get it, you know, I don't fault you for it. But to me it's beautiful and so relatable. And I I loved it, you know, and
Yeah.
I I also appreciated that Miles was going through some very similar things, but at the end of the day, even though this is it's made to look like a Miles movie, it kind of feels more like Gwen's movie. And this movie ends when Gwen reconnects with her dad. And then it just
Yeah.
happens to tease the next 20 minutes of Beyond the Spider-Verse at the end. Like I
Yes.
didn't feel like the ending was a cliffhanger. I just felt like it was a continuation into another film. But I
Yeah.
felt like we had a satisfying conclusion with Gwen and her dad, and that's why I didn't hate the cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry I talked so much and
No,
probably
you're
said
good.
some points that you want to say.
No, you're good.
Now you
This
go.
opens with a 20-minute prologue.
Yeah.
Insane. And
Mhm.
like you said, like the first words are like Gwen saying, all right, let's do this differently this time. And it's like you hear that and you're either like, oh, come on, or like I'm assuming both of us, hell yeah, let's go. And from there, you are immediately dropped into her dimension. And I think that's what separates the animation from Into the Spider-Verse, which was already revolutionary. And Chris Miller tweeted while they were working on this that like they're doing the animation for Across the Spider-Verse, it's going to make Into look quaint. And my response to that and everyone's was like, "Bro, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. That's not possible." They did it.
Yeah.
They did it somehow.
They did. It.
Mumbattan, wild.
Mhm.
Just like blending so many different animation styles to where like a lot of characters have different frame rates that they are drawn on, interacting with each other. It's wild. And I like this movie has 5 different twists that are just kind of thrown at you that are all like mind-numbingly insane, and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, what else? And it just keeps throwing stuff at you. Um, I love the structure of it, like it being a part one. It's very overtly a part one, And when I was driving to see Inside Out 2, I just randomly thought about this for like the whole car ride
Mhm.
of people's opinions on the ending of this movie and how so many people didn't like it because it's a cliffhanger. That shows how good it is. If the only reason you don't like the movie is that it ended and that there is not more of it, you liked the movie.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. That's a good thing. I think like the whole canon event thing has become a meme at this point, but
Mhm.
it's so fascinating just the way that it plays with like the Spider-Man mythos
Yeah.
and just kind of twists that into its own like meta narrative. It's really cool. And like, yes, it allows for fun moments of fan service, like Donald Glover showing up and like the cutaways to Andrew Garfield and stuff like that. But I saw this in theaters 5 times, not because of fun little fan moments like that, but because of how compelling a story is able to be crafted around that.
Yeah.
Like you said, Gwen's relationship with her dad, you really don't get a lot of it because like you start out with Gwen and in many ways you kind of end with Gwen, but you only get that relationship in a couple scenes, but like even on a scene to scene basis, like that, like when she reveals that she is Spider-Woman and the backgrounds are changing like on every shot, reverse shot, to reflect the emotional states of the characters. What? Crazy.
Yeah.
Definitely like not my number one animated movie, but it is definitely just my favorite way that animation has been utilized in a movie by far.
Mhm.
Um yeah, it's insane. I love it. I pick up on new details every time. I've
Yeah.
watched it 6 times. I will continue to watch it. It's so awesome.
It is.
And it was easily my favorite movie of last year and what was a very good movie year.
Yeah. No, it was just mind blowing. And
Yeah.
with that being said, we do have one movie that we think is more mind blowing than
Is it
this one.
is it the same one?
I think you should reveal your number one.
It's Spirited Away.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. We were right.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Okay.
how about you go first?
So, Spirited Away, I watched very early on when I was getting into film, and I really liked it, but I didn't love it. And on second watch, I really liked it, but I didn't love it. And then on third watch, something clicked. Don't know what. The movie, probably. Um, and it became for a very long time my favorite movie of all time. And I'm in a weird state right now where I don't really know what my number one is. I don't really think I have one, but this is in my Letterboxd top 4. Like this is definitely in contention for that title still. um I say vibes all the time. It's just what I like about movies. They are just like you are able to tell a story, but you are able to tell it with a vibe, with a certain character and a certain style that you can't get somewhere else. And Spirited Away, I think, is the pinnacle of that. It's this weird world that Miyazaki creates that is like very fairy tale like, but is also a little horrifying, but it's still really fun. Chihiro just working at this bathhouse for spirits, it's vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And just like
Yeah.
the character designs are crazy. Just extended like 10-minute long scenes of her just like navigating the world. There's that whole sequence near the beginning after, by the way, when her parents turn into pigs. That's crazy. That's
Oh
just a
my god.
crazy thing to have at the beginning of your movie.
Yeah.
But like after that, you essentially have like 15 to 20 minutes of her just getting kind of from that point to where she is for the rest of the movie, for the rest of the story to take place. It's like her going down the stairs and then Kamaji, the boiler man, with like all of his arms and like the little dust bunny thingies that take her
Mhm.
shoes and like the elevator when she goes up. It's just awesome. And it is such a unique kind of world building where it's not even establishing the rules of the world, it's just kind of showing it to you. And you just kind of like pick up what you want. And I'm just fascinated by it. No Face obviously is just really cool.
Yeah.
And you don't know whether to be terrified of him or like because by the end you're not like when they're on the train together. That's like one of my favorite scenes in all of film. It's so
Mm-hmm.
chill. I love it. Um, but yeah, and like there's even like a cool commentary on like greed with that, like with all of the gold that he's vomiting up and whatever. It's just it's so cool. And like the story, and this is the only knock that I would give it because I don't think any movie's flawless. The story is not what I take away from it, and it's like because I've watched it in Japanese, I think 4 times, and then in English like 3 or 4 times. And when you watch it in English, it is still just as stunning as in the Japanese. I just love the vibes of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a vibes movie, and that's why
Yeah,
it's my number one. I vibe to this movie like I vibe to no other movie.
that's awesome. Yeah,
You talk
I
about it.
it's also a vibes movie for me. You know, I watched this on the airplane coming back from Cannes. It was the first of 4 movies that I watched on that airplane, and just such a tone setter. Best movie I saw on that
Yeah.
plane ride by far. And it's just there's the world building here that is just more incredible than the world building I've ever seen in any other movie. It just it's so stunning. You want to just like live in that movie and just experience that forever, you know. And Ghibli is great at world building in all of their films, you know, Miyazaki especially, but Spirited Away is his magnum opus in terms of this world building. And I think it's really interesting because then he has a movie like Boy and the Heron, which I think is kind of a commentary on him being able to create these worlds. Um, but I just, you know, you talked about the vibes and the world building and whatnot, so I don't want to just repeat what you said. I guess what I can add is that I think this movie is a lot about like forgiveness and childhood innocence and just trying to sort of show us as the viewers, you know, who are for the most part adults watching this film, in showing us that childhood innocence and childhood forgiveness and saying like you can still do that for people. You
Yeah.
don't have to not be forgiving just because you're older and be accepting. You know, Chihiro, after seeing the monster that No Face is, like, lets No Face just sit on the train with her and follow her around. You know, she doesn't hate Yubaba. Um, she doesn't like, she lets the baby stay with her as the mouse or
Yeah.
whatever ends up becoming to just like hang out, even though this baby was like a couple of minutes before trying to like kill her if she didn't
Yeah.
play with it. You know, there's just all these moments, and I think it just so beautifully shows that childhood perspective and childhood wonder, um, and captures it like no other film I've ever seen or will ever see. Like, could capture that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my
I think
thoughts
I
and
think
why
the
it's.
way it presents emotions too is
Mm-hmm.
just like it's very childlike, and like obviously the scenes that are emotional, you know why they're emotional, but like when she's just eating the rice and sobbing with like those massive like comedically large tears,
Mm-hmm.
it's like yes, she's lonely, she just wants her parents back, but it's also like why in that moment? And then look, when she's on the train, like that, I think is probably the most emotional scene for me of the whole movie. I don't know why. She's just on a train.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you've got beautiful animation, lovely music, and that's it. But it's just, it resonates with me in this weird way where I can't pinpoint what about it is resonating so much. It just is.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, and it's just it. You can go back to it a million times and never get bored because you'll just find a new detail every time, either emotionally or just visually. And yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I got.
Movies.
Movies. We love movies. I think that this is a very nice thing to talk
This
about.
was
Just our
good.
favorite animated movies,
Yeah.
and not something that's a little bit more narrowed. You
Right.
know, it's nice to just talk about good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, be
It
positive.
was fun doing a pop off episode on a what the film episode. That was good.
Yeah, you know. Well, anyways, that's today.
That's what we got.
Next week we are considering some structure changes for
Yeah.
the show. We don't know when those are going to come into effect, whether that's going to literally start next week or take a couple of weeks to get the ball rolling. Ideally,
We'll
what we
figure
want
it
to
out.
start trying to do is separating the box office episodes from the game type of things that we do and make those box office episodes these shorter 30 to 45 minute type of episodes every Tuesday, and then begin to upload every Friday and have the games happen on these Friday episodes, and then shift these discussions like what we had for Inside Out 2 to the Tuesday episodes.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. We'll see what comes out of it.
We'll get there.
Next week, whether it be in the Tuesday episode or on its own, our big highlight is going to be the July movie auction.
I'm gonna crush you.
You're yeah, we get very heated with these. We got 10 movies, $100 each.
100 fake dollars each.
Yes,
If only.
Yeah, I wish that they were real dollars. And we auction, and we have a whole system that we created on our older podcast.
A beautiful
And-
flawed system.
Yes, it is. It is very flawed, but we're gonna keep tweaking it probably
Yeah.
for eternity. And part of it involves our listeners, you all voting. So stay tuned for all that. It's gonna be a fun time. Should I unveil the movies to make people more excited?
Yeah, sure.
The July movies. All right.
Of course.
Despicable Me 4, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, Maxine, Fly Me to the Moon, Lawn Legs, Sing Sing, My Spy the Eternal City, Twisters, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Dee Dee. That's what we got.
I know we're not starting the auction yet, but I'm just gonna like put $90 down on My Spy the Eternal City, like just for dibs, just for dibs.
Really?
Sake.
I was thinking 93.
Ooh, I might go 94 now.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Preview of what's to come.
Yeah, this is hard decisions being made here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got.
This is all we got.
everybody. Take care.
Peace out.